Hello, welcome to House Sitting World, and today we've got two amazing guests with us with a fantastic story to share, coming to us from an Airbnb stopover. On your way to your next house sit, are you guys? So we've got Ruth Johnson and Marg, and Marg, I don't have your surname actually, so can you share that with me?
Fisher.
Fisher?
Fisher.
Very cool. So
Yes.
we actually first got in contact with Ruth through our Facebook group, having already stumbled across ExploraMum.com, being so inspired by ExploraMum and ExploraSun, traveling around the world with, I can't even count up to how many countries you guys have been in now. But more recently, we discovered that Ruth has been on a couple of house sits as mum and son, but getting her friend Marguerite to come along and hang out with her as well, because it's, I don't know, there's two ways about this that I'm seeing, and you guys can correct me on this, but sometimes some of the house sits can be a bit bigger than just one person and one half person. And maybe having two adults is a really good way to do it. So we really wanted to chat with you guys to kind of let others know that this is a really cool idea, and really find out how your homeowners have been feeling about having two friends come in and, you know, take over a home for a house sitting assignment. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And just identify who's who in case anyone hasn't been to ExploraMum and seen all your amazing photos, Ruth.
I'm ExploraMum, this is Ruth, and this is Margarita, Explorer Friends.
Explorer Friends.
I like that.
So,
Yeah.
Ruth, when did you first start house sitting? Like, was it from the word go when you first started travelling, or have you been house sitting sort of back when you were in Australia as well?
We actually started in Australia when we decided we were going to do our world journey. My son and I started doing some house sitting so we could get experience, and there was a couple for neighbours, which worked out really well, a place that they had down on the coast. And then when I got to sell my home, one of the neighbours up the street was going to Perth, and she said, well, come and look after my home while you pack up your home. So that worked out really well. So we did a few in Australia before we left, but then obviously a lot on the journey as well.
And what's your son's name?
His name's Louis.
Louis? And how old was
When we started house sitting, he would have been the very first house sit, I think 5.
Wow.
And he started travelling when we were 7.
And what sparked you
But
to
he's
actually...
really good with animals. He loves animals, and we had our own pets, and so it was really an easy transition for him, and it helps him too because of his love for animals, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And what sparked you to actually start travelling in the first place?
All work and no play. No time with him, and yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool. So this is like years later now. How old's Louis now?
He's 9 now, so we're just about to start our 3rd year of travel. So it's pretty good.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Almost half his life has been travelling.
Yeah.
What a way to be brought up.
So, Marg, when did you first sort of get on the travel bug as well? Was that being inspired by Ruth, or have you been a traveller all your life also?
I'm a traveller, but the opportunity came for me to be able to join Ruth in May, and she inspired me, so I thought, right, had a chat to her, and she got me on board, and it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I love the house sitting, actually. I find him really relaxing, and enjoying the animals. I've never done it before, so it was fantastic.
Well, it's perfect. Now you get to get some great references via the two of you as well, so if you do want to do it on your own as well. But your first one, was it in the UK when you first buddied up?
Yes, it was. Yeah, we had a cat and a dog there, and a what do they call it? A veggie allotment, which was down about 1 kilometre away.
Right.
So we had to take care of that.
Yeah. And was that because you felt you needed some help on that house sit, or you just wanted a friend along just to make it twice the fun?
I've been house sitting in Ireland for nearly 2 months, and it was a good meeting point, actually. So I spoke to the owner, and the part of the agreement in accepting it was that Marg would join us, and that would be the place where we would start.
Yep.
Yeah, and she was fine with that.
Yeah.
And it was a great way to start the trip too, being in a lovely English home, and I really enjoyed it. Loved the cooking and looking after the animals.
Yeah, I love the message that came through saying we'll do it at this time because Mark's going to cook later. Love your work, Ruth.
Yeah, well done, Ruth.
Yeah, I do the driving and Mark does the cooking. That's the deal with travel, and it works really well. Yeah, you have to, you know. I mean, it's a hard job driving and that. So I'm happy to do the dishes and do the cooking, and you know, she's always researching and stuff like that too. So but we work good as a team.
That's great, and I guess that's an interesting point and an important point, and we find the same thing as well. Is when you get to a house sit, do you find that you have both got your own duties, sort of thing, like you naturally take over certain aspects of the house sit?
Yes, exactly. And because I've looked after chickens before in Ireland, and Mark's never looked after chickens, well, that naturally fell into my jurisdiction, I guess. And then we had, and when we were in France, we had a sick dog to look after, and that became Margaret learned about medication, so that was something she did, and it worked like that pretty good. Yeah. It's good to have your own responsibility, like you know what your job is, and you go ahead and do your job, and it frees the other person to do what they want to do or what they have to do. So,
like I said, there's so many elements that are inspiring about this for other people because we've had, you know, as you've seen, the group grow to heaps and heaps of people so quickly recently, but there's so many questions that come through. It can be like, oh, aren't you worried about doing house sitting on your own? Or, like, oh, what if the homeowners only want couples? You guys are kind of addressing all of those in one because you've house sat on your own before in a unique way, so because not all house sitters want to take in children either. So have you ever actually applied for any house sits that even if they say want couple or no kids, do you apply, and have you got any like that, or do you just sort of go for the ones that are open?
I find it really difficult. There's a couple of sites that stipulate children yes or no, but they don't stipulate how many kids, what age, etc. And having one single child that is very good with animals versus maybe a toddler that's not good with animals or 5 screaming teenagers, it's a very different dynamic. So I tend to apply anyway, and I have a very big resume showing all the animals that we've taken care of, and that I think that helps as well. So we get some knockbacks because I have a child, and I fully respect that. There's people with executive homes that don't want children. That's okay by me. Sure. And there's other people that want their animals loved and cared for and would love their cat to be sat and had cuddles for hours, and a child can do that quite well. So it does work to their advantage at times, and other times not to their advantage. So I just go with the flow with whatever the owner wants, obviously.
Yes. And I think the takeaway from that, though, because I did see recently in our group, somebody had said, I didn't apply because they said they no children or not suitable for children. And I think it was Erin Bender who'd come back and said, well, that's funny because they actually had written to us seeing if we were available, and they've got 2 really young kids. And it's kind of like, I think the takeaway is if you see a destination or a listing that you'd really like to experience, if it's yours, no matter whether you're single, with children, with a full family, buddying up as friends like you. It's almost like apply anyway. What's the harm in applying anyway?
Yeah, exactly. You don't know if you don't try.
Yes.
And that's the way I look at it. But also I'm a very capable, both Margaret and I have had our own businesses, and Margaret's run a resort in Queensland, so she's got a lot of resort skills that she can bring into a house sit that she takes excellent care, obviously, because that was her business, to take care of property. So, and for me, I'm an ex-business person who is also very capable, have my own pool in Australia, had a very executive home, and have a really high standard that I can give a homeowner. So I feel quite comfortable applying for those sort of executive standards because I've trained my son up. You don't jump on the lounge, you don't do this to other people's property, and that's important too. Yeah,
definitely.
You treat it like your own home. I mean, what we've done with the 2 housings that I've done with the roof is like it's our home. We make sure we leave it perfect when we leave. And I mean, if someone was house sitting my home, I would expect them to respect it and leave it really nice and look after it. Yeah. And especially with the animals, so.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like you look after a house, like a house sitting home. probably better than your own home almost at times because it isn't yours.
Yeah.
So you take that extra care. I think we do as well. Probably be a little bit more lax in our own home, but.
Well, we just had a really interesting conversation with a lady who is a homeowner and a house sitter. So we only got in contact because I actually read her her listing for Santa Monica in Los Angeles, asking for a house sitter, but she's got guest houses or little casitas that she rents out as well, and she's off house sitting while she gets people in during the off season, and it was like, wow, this is this whole kind of pay it forward. So question for you, Mug, and I know you've sold your home and you're completely nomadic now, Ruth, but Mug, have you still got a home back in Australia or?
No, we sold the business because the business was my home.
Yep.
With management rights, so yeah, sold all that. So I'm homeless.
So we're all homeless.
We're all homeless. Well,
We're all homeless.
I'm ex-management rights as well, so I fully get that. Yeah, that live on 24/7 thing. It's sort of like, geez, I wish I'd known about house sitting earlier. I tell you.
Whenever we go to hotels or Airbnbs or anywhere, I feel for the people because I've been there, done that. You know, you don't realise how difficult the job is.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's very.
I only have a car.
So this is a hypothetical then, because we've just followed on from this conversation that we just had. But if you did have a home or a place, like, would you get house sitters in yourself? And I think this is a really, it's almost like a mindset element for anyone looking at house sitting, because we've come across people, would you believe, that have said, yeah, I want to go house sitting, but I could never have anybody in my own home. It's like, I think there's a bit of a disjoint going
Something's going on there.
How do you guys feel about that?
I could have house sitters.
Yeah.
After experienced it myself. I mean, I like to know a bit about them.
Yes.
I mean, someone like Ruth, it'd be, it'd be great, especially if I had pets as well.
Yeah.
And also the safety of it too, like, because I'm from the Gold Coast, and, knowing that someone is in my home looking after it and not empty, I would prefer house sitters.
Just that security aspect, yeah.
Okay, so house sitting for Louis. I mean, we probably can't really speak for him because he's not here, but give us your take on how he is taking to world schooling through travel and incorporating a lot of house sits, Ruth. Like, what's the biggest takeaway for him?
We left our dog in Australia, and that's been the hardest thing for him.
Yeah.
And to be able to, nearly all of our house sits have had dogs, and that's been wonderful. And he does get really attached to them. But if I see him come alive and he's outside running around in the yard and freezing cold in his pajamas, chasing the stick for a dog, it's pretty good. And it also gives us the opportunity to have that sort of home comfort base where you can, cook regular meals and catch up on. There is obviously some element of homeschooling where you've got to do some writing and things like that, and you can get that structure in place when you're house sit for a while, and that's good too for him. So he really likes it. He loves house sitting. Absolutely loves it.
That's great.
So cool. Wants to mow the lawn, wants to put the ducks to bed, wants to do all of that. Loves it.
It's just so inspiring, isn't it?
It is.
I just love it.
Imagine being brought up as a kid like that. Like, back in our day, we never even thought about that. Our parents probably would never have done it. But for kids these days, it's just so amazing.
No, it's great. Yeah, and he gets to meet all sorts of people in the journey as well. So his social skills are really good. Yep. If there's kids next door, he can make friends with the kids next door, and it's a really good variety. Yeah.
And is he picking up languages easily?
He can speak Spanish now, basic Spanish.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, when we house sat in Fiji, there was an Indian lady next door, and Louis actually went to school there, and he used to walk up the little mud path and go to her house, and she'd make him lunch every day, so he had lunch the same as all the other kids. Yeah. And it's really nice. Yeah, so it's a pretty good life.
That's cool. How long were you house sitting in Fiji for?
We house sat for nearly 2 months. That was the first one we did on the actual trip once we left Australia.
Yes.
It was excellent. It was the best house sit. Probably my favourite.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Fiji's a great place.
Yeah.
So where to next?
Well, we're going to be travelling to Italy next week, and then we're actually just sort of. I've got a couple of house sits lined up for Turkey, and I've been asked for a couple of others, but I'd like to pick some up along the way. We'd like to pick up maybe Greece and Croatia, something like that, if we can.
Yep.
So that's where we're hoping. But yeah, they're not as popular for house sitting as something like UK. Yes. So we'll have to see what we come up with. Yeah, kind of watch this space.
Absolutely. So you're planning to travel together for a little while now?
No, I'm heading back to Australia in November. And I've got family in Italy, so I'll be going to spend some time with them as well before I go home. So yeah, it's probably another month together. We just planned it by a year at this stage, but yeah, it's not long. I'm going to have to say goodbye to her in November.
Only for a short period, I'm sure. You'll be back on the track.
What was that?
I said only for a short period. I'm sure you'll be back on the trail with them.
Oh yeah, I'm getting a taste of it now. I don't know where 3 months have gone. It's crazy. Yeah, it's 3 months, and yeah. Yeah, definitely. And are you applying together when you go for these house sits to buddy up, or are you just applying Ruth and then asking in the application to bring Mark? I usually apply through my sites and put that Marg's going to be house sitting with us. Yep. So that's what we've done for the ones we've got at the moment.
Great. And what's the feedback from the homeowners about doing that? They're happy enough for that?
I don't think there's been a problem at all. So you just explain what our roles would be and that we're travelling together for a period of time. We also put in that because we've bought a car at the moment, so that's been quite advantageous because a lot of the house sits are, a little bit off the beaten track, and public transport can make it difficult. So we put that in there as well. So that helps. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And I got to meet the other owners in France, and we had dinner together, and they were lovely. The lady showed me how to look after the dog and the medication, and we went for a walk and knew where we had to take it. So it was nice to meet the family.
Yeah, it is really nice when you get to do that. We had that experience in New York actually recently, because it was a really last-minute one, and it was like, I'll just walk over the other side of the park and come and meet us type of thing. And it's weird because for doing so many house sits now where you're applying through email or through the site, then email contact, and then maybe a Skype interview, when you have that first real, face-to-face and then touching the dogs and stuff, it's like, oh, wow, like, this is really different. But it's super cool, though. And, these guys are amazing, the couple that we just met in New York, because they're actually heading, after their contract, heading back to Bulgaria to their cherry farm. So, you just meet so many cool people. And you guys are probably exactly the same. Like, you're making friends with your homeowners along the way?
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. And their neighbours.
And their neighbours, we got the same.
We met a couple of lovely Frenchmen that helped us out a little bit while we were in France, and they invited us over for dinner, and just beautiful. And it's a really special time to, when the lawnmower didn't work, he came and helped us fix the lawnmower. I mowed lawns for the first time. Everyone in Australia is freaking, couldn't believe it. Me mowing lawns, oh my God. I mean, she's a domesticated one when it comes to outdoors and fixing up, any switch or whatever, or if anything goes wrong with the washing machine or whatever. And just put me on a lawnmower, oh my God, that was funny. That was funny. Yeah. Louis videoed me.
Such a rare occasion.
But I loved it. It was fantastic, Yeah. Another time at 6 o'clock in the morning, I heard bang at the back door. We raced out, and the electric fence, the battery had gone flat, and the sheep had escaped into the yard and was starting to eat the plant.
I saw that.
And we raced around our pajamas trying to catch these sheep.
Oh, no.
Got them back in and didn't realise that the battery was flat, so 5 minutes later they're out again.
Back out.
A Frenchman neighbour came and helped us with that as well. So it was pretty good.
Using some of those Aussie roundup skills of the sheep.
It was so funny. Something to talk about, though, when you go back home.
Absolutely. You come up with some great stories when you're house hit, stuff you would just never normally do. They're just so crazy.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I think it broadens your skills, that's for sure. Because
definitely.
Gives you challenges you've never done. So,
huge repertoire by the end.
That's brilliant. So you're kind of working along the way as such, Ruth, with your blog. What are your plans with 𝗢𝗲𝗏, just for people to follow your journey, or have you got sort of any plans coming up on a book to come out of this? Or
I would really like to write a book to motivate single mums to travel and to change their life, to say that you don't have to get stuck in a rut.
Yes.
And because I was doing 2 jobs and spending no time with my son just to pay off a house, and there's more to life, and I think that would be my motivation out of all of it, to say, and I have a lot of them write to me, and I'll answer every single email that I get and encourage them and tell them I'm not one where all my little secrets are going to be hidden. I want to share them because I found it really difficult at the start. I did a lot of mistakes with my blog because no one's there to help you. A lot of things I didn't know, that if I can make it easier for other people, I'd like to do that. Yes. So that's a big motivation for me. That's and great. So, yeah, I'd like to write a book.
Awesome. Well, you've got plenty of space when you house sit. We've just been talking about that, the creative space that you get when you house sit, and you don't have a mortgage to pay and so many bills to pay anymore. When you are travelling, you just get into a house sit, and it is a really creative space.
It is, yes.
Yeah, and she's
lucky she's got a really good son, and I'm not saying that because she's sitting here next to me, but Louis is a really good kid, and he has total respect. Well, she would make sure it wouldn't be any different anyway, but if I had someone to house sit my house and I had a child like Louis, I would be wrapped, you know.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and it's probably, please everyone listening, take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not a mum. But I really feel that starting when you started with Louis at only 5, and a bit like Erin and Josh, their 2 littlies are sort of toddler type age as well, or just in that young age. The idea of sort of being lucky that Louis is a good kid is, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure if it's luck or if it's actually design. You know, the fact is that, as opposed to being a kid back in Australia that's not seeing his mum very often and dealing with kind of whatever emotional issues come out of that, he's actually somebody who's with his mum all the time now, travelling and with pets and meeting people, and his whole world is being so much more broader than just being in one place. So that idea of sort of being a good kid, you know, being lucky and being a good kid is correct me if I'm wrong, but part of design. You know, it's like, and the inspiration for other single mums, I really feel comes from that, because at the end of the day, if you as a parent are doing what you love and you are actually happy and not weighed down with stress in life, then your child is just a reflection of that. So if your child is perhaps playing up, if you're stuck in a life that you're not overly excited about, then definitely follow ExploraMum.com to find that inspiration, because it is about you first. You know, you're as a parent and as a person, it's you first, and everything that Louis does is ultimately a reflection of that love of your own life. Agree?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it is nice to say, oh, you know, such and such is sort of a bit of a projection, or such and such is so lucky because their kids are so good. It's like, well, perhaps their kids are so good because they've had amazing experiences.
They've got a great life.
You know, and they've got a great life.
Nothing to rebel against. They're just loving them, what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think the thing I've noticed more than anything is he's got wonderful communication skills. We were in Morocco for the last 2 weeks, and we were walking down this little lane. Some kids were kicking a ball, and he just went straight up and joined in the game and was accepted, and the next hour we just sat there and they all played together beautifully. The kids went in for tea and he went off on his way. And when we were in Paris, he just walked up to this lovely old couple and asked if they wanted their photo taken, and next thing he's engaged in this conversation with them. And we're sitting there having a glass of wine going, look at him. He's just engaging with these. They were probably 70. Amazing conversation he was having with them, telling them all about our trip, where we've gone. And I was pretty proud, I've got to say. It was one of those moments. Definitely. And even in France, we went to a little, I call it homemade restaurant, because there was only about 4 houses. And it was a restaurant. And there was this little boy. So he just went up to him. The boy had no English. He couldn't speak English at all. And you could see they were communicating, and they got a pen and paper, and they started writing out French words and English words. And, like, you know,
he was in his element, and then he ended up going to play with him the next few days, you know.
Yeah.
So
well, what I'm picking up on the most, because I've been sort of sprouting this off now since we've started house sitting, is we always choose houses with pets. Like, that's our choice. And the pets for us have been the most healing experience, because we went through a pretty horrible time when we were in Dubai for 16 months. We lost absolutely everything. So emotionally and financially, we were devastated. But through house sitting, not just having no bills to pay or whatever, it was the love of the animals. And we always say, like, it's the animals that can teach humans how to interact. But now hearing this story about what Louis is doing, it's the children that we can actually learn from as well. I mean, where does the idea of like judgment and racism and, you know, any problems interculturally comes from? It comes from the adults. So the adults need to stop, turn around and say, well, you know, if a black dog walks up to a white cat type of thing, it's like, is there issues there going on? No, not usually. Sometimes, but not always. But same with kids. Like, kids will just go up and, you know,
break through.
Learn how to communicate if they don't speak the same language. Just play freely. That is what the world is about. And I feel that that's why it's just so inspiring, and it's so important that people, you know, pick up and listen and take notice of these stories, and, you know, don't just put it out there saying, oh, it's okay for them or I can't do it. It's like, no, have the courage and do it, because it benefits even beyond your own world. It ripples out much further around the world.
Yeah.
That's my little soapbox thing at the moment. I'm kind of all charged up about that because I'm just so inspired. I think it's awesome.
I've seen I've been with Louis and Ruth for 3 months now, and I've seen a change in 3 months.
Wow.
Like, from when I met Louis until now, like, you know, I mean, I'm not very good when it comes to sense of direction, and he knows exactly where he's got to take me, or, you know. Oh, he's got an amazing sense of direction. The other day in the Medina in with the souks in Fez, I was lost, and he's going, it's this way, this way. I was absolutely amazed. And it's like, you turn at the yellow, don't do the same. So yeah, he's very good like that. So I'm quite proud. Yeah.
Who needs a GPS? Let's get a Louis.
Yeah.
Get him onto it. That's
well,
awesome.
Ladies, it's been awesome to talk to you and hear about your experiences. It's ongoing, so to me it's not about just like, you know, do this once. It's like anyone listening to this through the magazine, through what will be a podcast coming up, so we'll definitely get you on board with that again too, to have more people come along and check out ExploraMum.com for North American people. That's MUM, not the moms. It's the mum, the Australian version. But we'll have the link available as well. So Ruth and Marg, thank you so much. Say hello to Louis. Tell him he's doing his amazing ambassador work around the world now as being a free spirit. It's just awesome.
thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Cool. We'll catch up again soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.